Alright guys, so in today's video I'm going to show y'all how I make these SP500 patch cables that I'm doing on my pedal board. I've already done most of my board, I just got a couple more left, so I was just going to show you as I finish this cable as a demonstration. First thing, once you know the right length, I take some electrical cutters and just cut it because it produces a really good clean cut right there. I'm going to set those aside. And the first step for making a cable and doing the end is that you want to trim off this outer protective like casing. And so I'm going to just take it right there. I have just a pocket knife. I'm going to just kind of roll it a bit. And then if you look at it, you should be able to start seeing some of the protective lining that's underneath there. And so you want to just keep rolling it or cutting the outer black casing until you can see that copper conductor that's underneath it all the way around. Once you got it basically cut through all the way around, you just take it and can pull it off. So there, now you can see, I'll just zoom up real quick. This is Lava Mini ELC. It's got like a braided conductor right here that's kind of, it's for the shielding of the cable to block out radio and other noise. Oh, actually, here we go. We'll just keep it zoomed up for now. Once you get to this part, you're going to want to just go ahead and start pulling that shielding down. It kind of comes off like this. And then once you get to this part and you get it pretty much all fanned out, I go ahead and I just take my knife and divide it, because what you're going to want to do is divide it into two halves. Separate those and then do it on the other side as well. I just do it with my knife and kind of split it in half. And you want it to be like this. Once you have it like this, you can take your same wire cutters. I'm going to use this different pair, and you cut one side of it off. So that's what it looks like now. And with this side, this is what you were going to use for the ground. You can just take it and start twisting it, kind of get it twisted up and out to the side. Next thing we need to do is take off this this shielding part right here. So I'm going to use my electrical cutters again, and I'm going to come here and use the 18 to 20. It's this very tiniest part right here to strip it out. So take it, and I'm going to come down to about here, pinch it, pull it off, set that down. Now this is what we're looking at. Now, when I get it like this, I want to take and kind of go ahead and start twisting this as well. Just kind of get it twisted a little bit. And then as well, I want to go ahead and start, I like to put a little bit of a bend in them, because you'll see why later when we go to solder it up. But so basically I want it looking a little bit like this. Yep, that's about how you do it. Next, let's come down here, and I'm going to just show you one real important factor for soldering stuff is you want to tin your parts, which tinning is basically, you know, sometimes you see people, they'll like try to solder something together and they're dabbing solder on the soldering iron, and then they're trying to touch the two parts together, and they're applying the solder to the iron first and then trying to use that to heat up and connect the parts. That's totally wrong. You don't want to be doing it like that at all. It's not going to create a strong connection. It's not going to bond the two metals together well. You want to tin your parts, which basically means you're going to solder both connections. The way you do, and so getting a little bit ahead of myself, but so the way you do it is you want to go ahead and tin both of these connections, your hot and your ground. And so I'm just going to heat it up a little bit, and I'm going to apply a tiny bit of solder. And now as the solder's starting to go inside that wire, I add a little more solder to the wire, not the soldering iron, and then voila, there you go. That part's tinned. Now we're going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm heating up the wire, apply a little bit to the gun. It starts seeping into that wire more, and then I just keep touching that wire, and the soldering is like going inside of the wire, and it's like basically connecting all those and making, instead of a bunch of tiny little strands, now this is like one solid piece, which is gonna just be a lot stronger connection and a lot better for carrying signal and everything. So the next part is we're gonna tin our plug. These are the SP500 plugs. I did a review of those in a different video. I can post that in the description. So if you want to just hear my thoughts and opinions on these, you can go watch that video. They're really great. I love them. Saving tons of space on my pedal board. Okay, so here we go. I'm actually gonna go back, zoom up for you guys. Okay, so here's what it is. I just opened this up. This is what it looks like. Now, one thing I've noticed in putting these cables together is that when you go to tin both of these lugs, you got your live connection or your hot right here, and then you got your ground, which is this one on the corner or below. This connection doesn't really like to be tinned really well, because I found out that it's so close to just the outer casing, it's almost laying on it, that when you go to try to heat it up and apply a solder to it, it just doesn't do good, because the heat is dissipating so quickly just through being connected to this outer casing. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and take a knife or something and kind of pry up this lug. That way it's off this outer casing and it'll heat up really well. So we're going to go ahead and tin this part. And the way you do it is I just start kind of rubbing this solder lug, and then I'm going to start applying a little bit, keep rubbing, apply a little bit more, and then just pull away really fast. And I do the exact same thing on the other part. So just kind of rub it a little bit. And then once I put the solder on there and I see that it's like melting and creating a really nice shiny surface, I pull it away. So now you can see both of those are tinned. They are pretty shiny, really flat, and it's going to make soldering this thing a lot easier, and it's going to be a way better connection. All right, so next thing we need to do is I'm going to bring this over and get it lined up. And then one thing that's come in really handy for me is I have just this random alligator clip wire thing. What I like to do is I like to go ahead and clamp this down before I make this solder connection. Because over the years of soldering stuff and doing projects and learning from other people that know way more than me, is that part of what makes a really amazing solder joint is that when the two pieces, or as the solder is cooling, you don't want it, the two pieces that you're soldering together, you don't want them to be moving at all. You want to be able to pull your solder and the soldering iron away, and you want it to just be super still as that solder cools and forms a good bond. That's why people just putting solder on the tip and trying to like bond the two pieces together, or if you're like trying to hold this here and put solder on it and apply the heat, and then you pull it away and you're trying to like hold the parts together while the solder's cooling, that's a no-go. That's going to create a bad solder joint. And so what I'm doing now is, you can see that these parts are going to be too long to fit inside here. So now that I got my cable lined up in the plug, I'm just going to go ahead and snip off this little end. So now you can see it's just perfectly right on there. Since both parts are already tinned, this is going to be super fast and super easy, and it's going to be super strong connection. All I'm going to do is I'm going to just start touching it, and it's going to, the solder that's already on both of those connections is going to start melting. I'm going to add a little extra to it, and then I'm going to just pull away really quick. And it's not moving, so it's, as the solder's cooling, it's just sitting there really still, and it's forming a really great bond. Now, and you only need to let it sit there. It's not like you got to let it sit there very long. You just need to let it sit there for like, I don't know, 15 seconds. It's not like an eternity or anything. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to just come and cut this piece because it's going to be, doesn't need to be that long. And then I'm going to just bend it over there. And I'm going to do the exact same thing using this alligator clip to kind of hold it in place, because sometimes, you know, wires can, if they're pre-bent or they have a certain way they want to bend, you don't want to be using this. I don't want to use the soldering iron to hold that wire down, apply the solder, and then let go and the wire try to bend up or leave as the solder is cooling. So now I'm going to just do the exact same thing. Start heating it up, apply a little solder. All right, they're all melting. I apply a little more and then just pull away really quick. And it's really that simple. I love how simple and fast it is. And the reason it's that simple and fast is because I went ahead and did the work beforehand of tinning it. All right, it's good enough. All right, now I'll show it to you guys what that looks like. Yeah, this is a great connection. And another thing is I try to cut it so that this this outer shielding is coming a little bit further in here, so that way when I put the back on here, I know I'm going to get great strain relief and it's going to clamp down really well. So now I'm just going to put these in here. This Lava Cable Mini ELC with these SP500 plugs is like the perfect match. I feel like the cable and the plugs were meant for each other. I've been loving doing this on my board. Okay, there you go. And that's what it is right there. And it's super sturdy. Like, I mean, I can take this and really try to, here I'm gonna back out just a little bit. I can take this and try to, and it's not coming out at all. It's super sturdy. I know the connection's great. It's a super well-made heavy-duty cable right there. And that's how I solder. I mean, the main parts, the biggest things are tinning stuff, you know, lifting that tab on the SP500 thing so that it's the heat, that you can tin it and the heat's not dissipating through the back of the plug, and then making sure that when you solder the connections, they're like not moving around, and as that solder dries, that it's not like trying to move or the wires trying to lift up off the connection. You just want it to be able to sit there, and then these cables are great and it makes an amazing connection. So anyway, I hope this was helpful for you guys, and if you have any questions, feel free to post it in the comments and I'll respond, and hope this is helpful. See you guys later.